This is episode number 229 of the InnerFight podcast with Janine Bensouda. Welcome to another edition of the InnerFight podcast. My name is Marcus Smith, founder of InnerFight.com, and I'm delighted to be joined by Janine Bensouda today to talk about career, family, sport, and all things related to it. Big thanks to our show sponsor, Kareem, who, of course, if you use the promo code InnerFight, will give you 100 dirhams off your first ride with them. If you come into the gym, use the promo code INNER, and if you're leaving the gym, use the promo code FIGHT for 10% off your rides. No matter where you are in the world, thanks for tuning in. Let's jump right in. Here we go, another edition of the podcast. Welcome back, folks, and a huge welcome to my guest for today, a very, very special person. I don't know where to start with this. She's set up companies, she's set up a family, she's chasing a endurance dream. Janine, thank you so much. I don't know if that was the introduction that you really wanted or were expecting.
It's a great introduction.
Is it? Let's you give an introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, before we started recording the show, I mean, you told me where you were born, brought up, and it's a cool story from the start. So give us a little bit of background on yourself and sort of how you ended up in Dubai.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess I'd consider myself a global citizen, truly, in every sense of the word. Because, you know, where I was born, where my passport is from, where I spent the years of my life, they're all different. So,
right.
You know? Yes, I've spent a number of years in Dubai. I went to school here.
Right.
And high school, but then I went to the UK for my education at university.
Right.
Studied in France. I studied in Russia.
Wow.
And then I came back to Dubai, started working here.
Yeah.
And then again with the work that I was doing as a consultant, I ended up working in like over 25 countries all over the world.
Wow.
So yeah, it was
so you've been through a few passports.
Yes, I have.
What's your this leads to something cool straight away.
Okay.
What's your favorite country in the world to visit?
Okay.
And then what's your favorite country in the world to live? Because they might be the same, they might be different.
Yeah, no, actually that's a really good question.
On the spot.
Yeah, one of the very favorite countries I have to visit is Malaysia.
Wow.
Yeah, I did some work there, and I really always enjoyed going back there because there's such, first of all, beautiful people, beautiful culture, very diverse and very rich, and also just aesthetically gorgeous.
Really?
The landscape is amazing.
What's your favorite place in Malaysia?
Well, I love Langkawi. That was gorgeous, but there is one very special place.
Yeah.
I don't want to promote too much because I don't want everyone going there. But it's a little island called Redang.
Okay.
And it's one place, and there are a few places only that I've had an experience where I actually feel like I'm in heaven.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's one of them?
And that was one of them.
Amazing.
At night with the moonlight shining and shimmering
Really?
on the water, and it's just amazing.
Run away with it. And favorite city in the world to live outside of Dubai? Because you live in Dubai, and we'll get into it, but you've been back here for quite a while. What's your favorite city to live?
So with at the risk of upsetting a few of my sisters, because we always have this big debate, is it New York or is it San Francisco?
Right.
For me, it's New York City.
New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually went there in November or start December. It's a great city.
You know, you either love it or hate it. You cannot be indifferent to New
Really?
York. It's got so much personality and attitude.
Yeah.
It's like, here I am, take it or leave it.
Take it all.
So it's just high energy. There's so much that you can do there.
Yeah.
There's so much you can get from the city, and there's so much you can contribute. I love it. I
Absolutely.
love the energy level.
Talk to us a little bit about Dubai. You were brought up in Dubai. You said you went to school in Dubai,
yes.
and now you have a business in Dubai.
Yes.
So how was it when you were growing up here? What was Dubai to you, and what's brought you back? Because you left a little bit, and then you came back and set up a business.
Gosh, Dubai was so different.
Yeah.
My memories growing up in Dubai. We used to live in Jumeirah, right? And we could see the sea from the window in the kitchen.
Right.
And, Jebel Ali Hotel that is there used to be like going to another country.
Absolutely.
It's like a weekend. For the weekend, we're going to go to Jebel Ali, right?
I remember
and then
that
it was
as
like
a kid.
never-ending drive there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my father is an architect.
Right.
So, he was very much involved in construction and the changing face of Dubai over that time. So it's just been an incredible journey.
Yeah.
The thing is that there was a spirit to Dubai then
that
that I I don't feel anymore.
You miss a little bit?
Yeah, I miss that spirit, the authentic spirit.
It's kind of different now, I guess, because there is a lot more people here, and people like you and I have set up businesses here that obviously weren't here before. So I guess sometimes that spirit that you speak about leaves the city as well, doesn't it? So it's a big metropolitan, cosmopolitan, whatever politan you want city now, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes, it is.
But I guess a city with a lot of opportunity as well.
Yeah,
and that's sort of what's brought you here, and you've set up. Talk to us about your current business, what you do, why you set it up, and when you set it up, because this is a very interesting story as well.
Yeah, so right, I ended up in a career that was not my choice, actually, which was banking.
Out of university, you went to banking.
Yeah, and I didn't go to banking deliberately, right? It was by accident. It was a summer job that I took when I was in Dubai, and that ended up changing everything, because I actually wanted to be a foreign correspondent journalist.
Right.
If I couldn't be a full-time
What did you study at university? This is getting even more interesting.
Yes.
So what did you study at university?
I studied languages, politics, and economics,
Wow. So, and then you wanted to... So carry on. So, you take a job in a bank.
Yeah, so I take a job in a bank, and I'm like, now I really want to be a Kate Adie at that time, who was a very famous BBC foreign correspondent. But then we had a certain situation in the family, and my mum had a medical scare, and I'm the oldest of 5. And so at that time, I kind of took on the ownership of saying, look, Mum, Dad, you guys go and seek out the best medical attention you can get, and I'll be here, and save the kids. So I'll basically stay with Citibank.
Wow, that's very unselfish of you. Just put them first, and just that's incredible.
And then I proceeded to bring my passion into my job,
and
that's where I kind of got the idea that, you know what, when life gives you lemons, lemonade. So what I realized was it doesn't really matter where you are, as long as you know what you want to do. Right. So cool. I kind of joined in the marketing department, and then I ended up getting on some managerial fast track program where they kind of take you all around the bank. Yeah. And what I brought to what I did was I brought that energy level, that creativity, and the kind of the innovation side of it. So I ended up making banking as kind of closer to what I wanted to do.
That's incredible. Yeah. So you're in the bank. How do you make, like, when I think of banking, and I know this is super harsh, but I think the way that you sort of said it at the start as well, banking is banking, but you made it close to what you wanted to do. Tell us a little bit about that, because that sounds interesting. I think there's probably a lot of people who are in a job and maybe are listening now and thinking, how do I make my job more about me and less about what the corporation wants? So how did you do that?
Okay, as this brings us to a really important point. Something that I've learned, and probably kind of my message to the world. I learned the importance of finding your purpose. Yeah. And being authentic to your purpose. So I believe each one of us has got a gift. Right. And it's a unique gift that we bring to the world. Absolutely. And once we are able to discover what that gift is and focus on developing that gift and building it so we can share it with the world, we are less concerned with comparing and competing with other people who have different gifts. Right? Because Marcus, who could be a better Marcus than Marcus? Right. So it's more about the individual. Right, and what you're bringing. So what I realized is that what I bring in my gift is an ability, and I know this word keeps being used a lot, and I don't take it lightly, but it's my aspiration to be considered as an inspiring person. So you knew that early, though? Like, at an early age, you've left university, you've got this sort of placement that was temporary to you, really, at the bank. You figured out that's what you wanted. You wanted to be... almost like you wanted to live a life of inspiration for people. Yeah, I've always known that I connect well with people. Right. And I've always been told growing up as well that people have a positive impression of me, and they feel good about themselves after they've interacted with me. Amazing. I'm going to feel so good after this show. But it's very true. You do have a natural positive vibe about you, yeah. So I then, focused on how do I use this vibe in banking. Now, traditionally, to me, banking, especially at that time, was like the most boring kind of profession you could have. That was a stereotype that I was trying to apply, but I didn't want to get in trouble for. Full of the most boring people and the most traditional ways of approaching anything. Right. Add to that, Dubai a number of years ago when it was still very male-dominated, especially in industries like banking.
Yes.
So I was still in a male-dominated environment, and I was very young.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now add all that together, which is like a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
But what I ended up doing was I ended up finding a way to use these qualities to inspire others to think about problem solving differently, to maybe use different techniques to identify solutions, and to connect better with each other, which meant if they're communicating better, we're able to accomplish our work faster, better results. Communicate with our customers better, which is important. Sometimes people forget, right? And dialogue with them, and that's how I brought it into.
I mean, you obviously spotted that from an early age. There's a massive disconnection in how people communicate, whether it's with their peers or you mentioned it just there, brands communicating with what they think is their customer, and a lot of time it might not be. How do we sort of start to get round that? Because a lot of stuff we say, like, accidents happen or things break down due to a lack of communication. Yeah. So how do we, like, you figure this out at an early age, you're sat in Citibank as a graduate, imagine some of your ideas were met with quite a
contempt.
So how do you sort of start to, from what you've said, I would imagine a lot of no all the time. So how do you start to keep your energy and keep this going?
So the approach was, again, tapping into my particular gift, which is connecting with people. So two scenarios, right? I'm reporting into a marketing manager, director, and he's already, thinks he's already got it gripped, and I've just walked in the door, right? So two ways I could approach things. I could come in and say, I've got this great idea, and, I'm young, and I've got all these fresh ways of looking at things. And he'd probably just, pour some water over my head. The alternative way, which I did use, was first talk to customers. Right. Do the research. Yeah. Have focus groups. Do some, get out there, get into the market, bring back quotes, put the quotes together, put a story together, and come and say, guess what? I found out something really interesting when I went out and talked to our target customers out there. And they shared some insight. I wonder whether we should consider this. Right. What do you think about this? So again, I'm putting him in the driver's seat, but I've also kind of done my homework. Yeah. And it's not about me and it's not about my opinion. Yeah. It's about our target customers. Right. So I'm sure you use this in your sport as well as how do you use another person's strength kind of against them or for.
Yeah, there's good and bad. There's the good stuff and there's the sort of Dr. Evil stuff. Yeah, and I guess that's when people start to listen to you as well. Yeah,
the people love to hear their own voice. Yeah. So what I learned to do is sound like people. Right. Sound like literally make it sound like themselves. They're hearing. So then they're more likely to listen to you because they're using their words, their expressions, their focus. So you've got their attention, and the objective is, obviously to do good. Yeah. That you're trying to connect.
Incredible.
In Arabic, it's really funny because how different countries in the Arabian world, or Arab-speaking countries, rather, let's put it that way, have different accents. Yes. So when I speak Arabic, my accent changes completely from if I'm speaking to an Egyptian, if I'm speaking to a UAE national, if I'm speaking to Lebanese, it changes to that, and it's a kind of a part of my mirroring technique.
And it builds on a stronger connection.
Yes, it does.
Let's carry on the journey. So you're this loudmouth graduate at Citibank. You know better than anyone else, but you've got a seriously strong point. How does your career go from then? Keep us going through the journey. How long were you at the bank for, and what came after that? Right.
So I was after Citibank. I moved to Mashreq Bank, and that there actually. Was another place that I developed a lot because I came in very young as a head of a big department. Right. And most of the people in that department, there were about 50 at the time, were older than me. Right. So what I did when I joined, I did not go directly into my office. Right. I went into a neutral area, a kind of conference room with the door open. Right. And basically kind of invited people to come in and talk to me and share their recommendations for where we go. So I was like unassuming. Yeah. That was the way I kind of won over, and we became a really, really tight group and accomplished a lot of great things. So I was at Mashreq Bank for a couple of years. Then I moved into consulting. Right. That's when I decided it's time for me to spread my wings and leave the UAE and travel abroad.
Right.
So I moved to New York. I moved to the US. I joined a consulting firm.
Wow.
And I was 100% traveling.
Right.
So I kept moving based on where my projects were.
Right.
So I was in Asia Pacific, I was in Australia,
Wow.
I was all over,
So
in Europe.
this is where you've been to. This is why you've been to every single country.
Yeah.
Right, and you start to build on this sort of understanding connection with consumers in different jobs. So what brought you back to Dubai then?
What brought me back was I was bothered by a few things as I was progressing through my career, which was politics.
Right.
I really, really hated politics in organizations.
Right.
And I could see how the politics would always affect the results in a negative way.
Right.
And I noticed that I always had a subculture around me, like wherever I was working and people who worked with me, we were always high performing.
Right.
And positive, and we would accomplish a lot of things. And I realized it was to do with the culture of how those affecting how we work and why we were getting better results than the rest of the culture.
Let's just stop you there quickly. When you speak about culture in a work environment, what do you really mean? Because a lot of people, when you say culture, people think, okay, is it about sort of someone from this country, from that country? What do you mean when you speak about culture within an environment?
I mean 3 things. How we think, in other words, the values that we subscribe to and believe in.
Yeah.
How we talk,
right.
The language that's acceptable, not acceptable, that's commonly used in meetings and in conversations, and how we behave.
Right.
And what's considered acceptable ways of behavior and not.
Right.
And this is a methodology that I've developed over the last 9 years now, which is think, talk, and behave.
Right.
Breaking culture down into tangible ways that you can define it and see it.
Wow.
So if you imagine walking through, if you were invisible and you were walking past a meeting at Google, and imagine the kind of words that you would hear people using and the kind of way people would be behaving. It would be very inclusive. It would be very high energy. It would be very positive language. It would be, people encouraging each other to speak up and think bigger.
Right.
And then if you think about most organizations, most government organizations, traditionally, the way that we consider how government organizations work, and you think about walking, and listening to a conversation there, you'd probably imagine different language, different behavior, and different styles. So that gives you a sense of the culture, that organization.
And so you picked up on this sort of through the different roles that you did and through traveling and started to see that this was probably the key to people's success, not only the organization, but people personally, right?
Yes, because what I realized is, at first I realized it at the organization level, as you've said.
Yeah.
Because, you go to Singapore, go to Hong Kong, go to Malaysia, go to Taiwan, go to Australia. It didn't matter that the culture, the quote-unquote country culture was different. It was the organization, the way the organization that was operated that affected the results.
Because I think that's what people think a lot when we speak about the culture of an organization.
Yeah.
People sort of think about the geographical culture, don't they?
Yeah, and
whereas
that's not
it's more about sort of what's actually going on within it.
Yeah, so for example, your culture out here, when I walked out, as soon as I saw everyone outside in the sun, and that gives me an indication of the culture.
Of what's going on,
work hard, rest, play hard, natural, down to earth. These are some of the subliminal messages that you pick up when you see how people behave, how they talk, and how they think.
So you took this into you then. So you're out of Dubai now. You came. Try and keep the journey moving along.
Yes.
2007.
Yeah.
You give up, and this. I think this is one of the coolest things about your story. You sort of say, "Enough of you, New York. I've been here. You've sent me all around the world. I've done this consulting job. I'm going to go to Dubai and." Talk us through what you did and what the plan was.
Right. So what I figured while I was in New York, and while I was in New York, I was working in advertising at Ogilvy and Mayfair, but in a consulting role. What I realized there, I had the missing link.
Right.
I said, okay, I get it in my mind now. I get why we spend so much money building brands and making all these promises, but then customers interact with the brand and they don't feel a synergy there. They don't feel the experience, and then they're disappointed.
Yeah.
And the reason is that we're not able to translate what that brand means in terms that an organization can use to operate. So I said, that's it. I gotta go back to Dubai and do this there, because this is the land of opportunity, the land where anything goes, you know. And of course, my family was here as well.
So it makes it easy.
Yes, and I had a young son, so I needed help. So I came back to Dubai and set up Bensouda Consulting.
Right.
And the idea was, I mean, our motto is we bring brands to life.
Right.
And we bring brands to life by making them, articulating what they mean in a meaningful way that can be adopted and understood by the organization.
Talk us through that move, though, because I think a lot of people your move was not dissimilar from a load of people that are on the edge of that tipping point and are going to do it. What pushed you, aside from what you saw in culture within companies and that you obviously knew you could add value, but how did you process it? Because you've got a son, you're in New York, the world, I mean, you've said it at the start of the show, New York's an incredible place,
yes.
The world's your oyster.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got family here, but what's the tipping point and what's going through your mind when you're making a decision like that?
Two things. The first one was the fear of regret.
Right.
And as I was mentioning earlier, probably that's the one fear that I have is regretting.
You don't want to regret
I don't
anything.
want to regret anything.
Right.
I don't want to have a dream that I haven't, at least attempted to fulfill. And the second thing that, and I always ask myself, what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
Right. So, okay, I have all these risks. I put all these risks on the table.
Yeah.
Like, okay, those are a lot of risks.
Yeah.
So what if every single risk bombs? Like everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
Then what?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, okay, I'll pick myself up and start again.
Right.
So that gave me the courage to say, okay, I know that I'm taking a big risk here and many risks, but I also have a backup plan, which is if they all blow up, I still know I'm going to be okay because I'll just start again.
Do you think there are a lot of people that get into that situation, put all the risks on the table, and then basically absolutely shit themselves?
Yes.
Yeah,
for sure. It's scary.
Why do you think it is, though? Because I think there's probably a lot of people that have the same thought process as yourself, super positive, and then they put everything on the table. You had a look at it and went, screw it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people go, that looks too scary, and wipe the table and carry on. So what do you think the difference is?
I think it's confidence.
Right.
If you really believe in yourself, and you believe that you know that you are somebody who can keep going, no matter what. I think that helped me because I said, look, I know myself, and if everything fails, I know that I can pick myself up again. If I didn't have that confidence in myself, and of course, also let me also mention that I have family and a great support system.
Right.
So that's another it helps to build your confidence because you know that you're not on your own. There are people who love you and care about you who would also help you out.
How do you build that support system? You had family, but how do you were alone in New York? So how do you, if someone's listening and they're like, I get it, there's goals, I need to set goals, I need to understand the risk, no matter what it is. I mean, we're trying to sort of use your great example, and it can be used in everything, but how do you create that support network? Because I think that's something that people sometimes, especially in this country, feel that maybe is lacking a bit. Yeah,
and especially in this country, one of the ways that I've continued to build my support network is by associating with like-minded people.
Right.
And I've done that through the different aspects of my life. So for sport, I've associated with the triathlon crowd in Dubai, which is a really, really strong, I'm going to call them a movement almost.
It is, yeah. Or a cult,
Try Dubai is so strong and such an amazing group of people who are all, very, very inspiring and very committed and really support each other. I also, kind of associate with my children, like with the mothers, and I've set up chat rooms with the mums as well, so that we can support each other. Sometimes when somebody needs their kids picked up or has something exceptional going on, we share and help each other out with picking up, dropping off, and being there for each other. And then with work, I do a lot of networking, meet with people like yourselves, and basically keep yourself inspired by associating with other inspiring people.
So it's a lot that's sort of self-driven. Like, it sounds like you put a lot of work into it on three different pillars, really.
Yeah.
So it's something that people really need to jump into themselves, sort of head first, and just get out there.
You know, the thing is, you've got energy, you've got to make us do something.
Yeah.
You can't expect things to happen if you don't do something, right? It's like a muscle. How do you make a muscle grow? You got to work it.
You got to work.
So there is no easy way to do this.
Yeah.
I get the question a lot, how do you manage all of these things? You know, because they're
hey, that's a question I'm going to ask. Yeah, but come on, let's jump into it. Like, you're doing a lot. So how do you, on that level, how do you manage those different areas? It's tough, right?
Right. It is. Time management is absolutely key.
Right.
Really.
Right.
The second is, the support network, which definitely you need to have because you can't do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And third is you got to be ready to sacrifice something.
Right.
So
I love it. You've given me a perfect segue. So let's just rewind quickly. So you moved back to Dubai, you bring your son with you, and you set up your consulting company. Yeah. In that, and you risk everything.
Yeah.
And you're one of the people that have done it. And hats off. It's amazing. What did you have to sacrifice in the early stages of that? There's people listening, there's people that want to do all different things and hopefully are inspired by what you've said so far. What are the sacrifices you've had to make?
One of the key ones is sleep.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely, because I basically do, because I want to be there for my kids at important times of the day, and especially homework and dinner time and bath and bedtime. So the best time that I can use for my training is early morning before they wake up.
Right.
So my training is like 5 a.m. That's when I do my training, especially when I have to put long sessions in, like 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm starting my brick sessions, which is like cycling and then running at 5 a.m. at Neda Shiba. So that means I'm up at 4.
Up at 4.
Right, and out there, and so it sounds like, wow, that's a lot, but you know what? It's worth it because I can do that. I can feel awesome about, got my training in. I feel energized and positive, and I still get to see my kids,
incredible.
And have breakfast and get them also.
Sleep. I think you're not the only one that's sacrificing. Talk a little bit to us about the sports. And now you follow triathlon.
Yes.
How did you get into triathlon?
Well, actually through running.
Okay, that's a good place to start because it's one of the disciplines.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I got, and kind of growing up, I'd always been quite sporty.
Right.
And, I'd done horse riding, and I'd played hockey and played volleyball and football as well. And but then when I was traveling a lot, the only thing I kind of was able to consistently do was running.
Right.
So I kept that up, quite well, but never did anything really serious with it. And then when I moved back to Dubai and I had kids, because I kind of stopped the sport.
Right.
Took a back seat.
Yeah.
And then I had a tragedy that actually got me back into my running.
Right.
And it was my third child.
Yeah.
I lost my third baby.
Oh.
My third baby was stillborn.
Right.
And after that experience, I was obviously devastated.
Yeah, for sure.
And at one point, I actually, I thought, I just wish I could run away from all of this. Everything. But I have 2 kids, and, I have a family. And so one day I said, I got to get out of bed, and why don't I just run away? Just run. Just run. So put my shoes on and say, forget about the running away from it. Let's just run. So I put on my shoes, ran outside.
Brilliant.
Thought that felt good. So what I did was when I used to take my son for his football, I'd run around the football field.
Yeah.
And just to keep increasing my distances. So that way I could cheer him on and I could run as well.
Time, yeah.
So I ended up starting, kind of signing up for 5Ks and then 10K races, half marathon, full marathon.
What was it that the running did for you mentally?
God.
Because it must have done something.
Incredible. The first thing I felt was it kind of gave me some alone time.
Right.
Right? Secondly, I felt like I was free in my mind.
Really?
There were no noises.
Yeah.
I could just be distracted, like, look at the sky,
Did you listen to music when you were running, or
no,
were you just went out and just ran?
I just ran.
Wow.
So I was listening to just the world, you
Wow.
know. And then I started to have my own internal dialogue. So things
Right.
that were at the back of my mind started, coming to the front, and
Right.
I was kind of figuring stuff out.
So it was almost, if you like, therapy at the start.
Yeah,
It really was. It's
Yeah.
from a tough situation. You wanted to run away from the world, and you start doing just. I mean, did it matter how far you ran, or was it just a case of getting out and running?
It was just running.
Really?
Yeah. It was only when my sisters, they noticed, because at the end of the runs I'd feel positive and happy.
Yeah.
So they realized. They know how competitive I am, and I
Yeah.
love goals.
Yeah.
So one of my sisters said, "Okay, you should sign up for the 10K Dubai Autodrome race."
Right.
It's like, what do you mean? I'm barely doing 5 kilometers.
Yeah.
And she said, "Nope, that's it. You've done it. You're signed up."
Really?
Yeah.
And so that's how this thing sort of started moving along.
Yeah, and then I joined the Desert Road Runners,
Right.
and then the Creek Striders, and
Right.
that was the beginning of the end.
Really?
Because again, then you surround yourself with a
Yeah.
great community
Yeah.
of runners, and they suck you in. Are you? So what's the
Suck you in.
What's the next race you're going to do?
Really?
Yeah.
You're supposed to be nice to these people. They support them. You're talking about how they suck you in. So how do you go from all this running and these running races and the great community there into triathlon? Is it a natural progression?
No, well, I have a couple of my friends, one in particular, a guy called Martin Bond,
Right.
who had just kind of gotten into triathlon a couple of years beforehand.
Right.
And he kept telling me, Janine, you'd be really good at triathlon because you've got the strength of character.
Right.
And I said, yeah, but I'm not really in endurance. He said, yeah, you're doing running marathons, right? I said, yeah.
Right.
Because I never considered myself an endurance athlete. I thought I was just like short distance.
Despite you'd run long distances.
Because I was an accidental marathoner.
This gets better and better.
So
how do you, hang on a minute, how do you accidentally run a marathon? Is this one of the runs that you just went and ran away with yourself,
yes,
sort of thing?
Because another friend of mine,
Right.
a guy called Ibrahim, he and I were training together.
Right.
And he's kept saying, okay, now we've done 12 kilometers. Let's do 15.
Right.
Let's do 20 next week.
Right.
Let's do 30. And suddenly we're like, he said, why don't you just sign up for the marathon?
marathon.
He kept challenging me. He kept saying, are you chicken or like, can you?
really?
And that was it.
And that's again back to sort of the support network in a way. I
Yeah.
mean, it's almost bullied motivation there,
Right.
but for still,
Yeah.
for having those people around and having those people in your
It's
life,
positive.
it really helps, doesn't it?
It does. That's why you need to associate with groups.
So, and then you get into triathlon. So when did
Crazy.
you start doing triathlons?
I was specially allowed to participate in
Right.
in a 4-week triathlon camp, which was meant to
Right.
be for more experienced triathletes, but
Yeah.
kind of Martin's worked it so I could come.
Right.
And I was the rookie. Literally, we went to buy a bicycle like 3 days before this 4-day.
So you turn up, it's still got the bubble wrap on it.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
And I do all the classic things like get off the bike and go running with my helmet on.
Yeah, of course, that's fine.
As everyone
It's safer.
Absolutely.
Everyone should be doing it,
right?
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, this is something else.
Really?
I love it.
Really?
I want to conquer
What
this.
was it that in okay, the running we can understand, but
Yeah.
like in triathlon, like you're from a very sort of work dominated background, like your career was your passion, you're in different countries, you're traveling, you moved back to Dubai. Some people move to Dubai because of the beach or because
Right.
of something, but you moved back to Dubai and you wanted to set up this business. What was it that was so addictive or liberating in triathlon?
It was a combination of the challenge. So
Yeah.
there are two disciplines that were almost brand new to me. Cycling and swimming. I could swim, but believe me, I realized that I couldn't swim when I realized, what it takes to be a triathlon swimmer.
Right.
And so and of course I saw a lot of other people
Yeah.
participating, and I kept asking myself, well, why not me?
Right.
Why can't I do that? I've had babies. I can do this,
You
surely.
can do this. It's not going to be as painful as that.
No,
Right.
it can't be more hard.
Yeah.
So that was it, and I was curious, and it felt like a long enough, a high enough goal
Yeah.
to keep me busy for a while.
Right. But keep you busy. Hang on a minute. You've got a family to take care of.
Like I don't have enough.
You've got your own business to look after. Why did you need something else to keep you busy?
Right. Well, so remember what I was saying about being authentic to your gift. So if my gift is inspiring other people and helping them see potential, I've got to be constantly sharing new stories, right? Because otherwise, how authentic am I?
Right.
So I need to be able to point to myself. People need to have to see that I am true to what I say by looking at my life and what I do, and in order to gain credibility.
Yeah.
So I need to be perpetually pursuing.
Is this? Are we on the same tracks here as sort of the vision for your company, bringing brands to life? Are you bringing yourself to life through this? Is it? I mean, it could be. Talk to us about that. I mean, talk to us about bringing brands to life, and not just on the boring, dry work side, but how people sort of need to be bringing themselves to life. Because essentially, you're doing. It's one of the same here, isn't it? They almost run in parallel.
Absolutely. Well, imagine somebody who is kind of wandering around without purpose, without focus, with low self-esteem, and no goals that they're working towards, versus somebody who's waking up inspired with a vision and a belief in themselves, even though they may at that point in time look exactly the same and be quote-unquote in exactly the same place in life. They may be going to the same office to sit next to each other, but one person will be glowing. That's the person who is driven and is bringing their soul and their purpose to life. And an organization that can truly bring brands to life has got to have a team of people who can bring their purpose to life, because then they're shining all their colors, right?
But rewind a little bit. What if people are listening thinking, that works, I get it, but what is my purpose?
Right.
And it's the same with a brand, right? It's exactly the same with a brand. Like what, I guess, probably, you'll tell me better, but you probably sit down with some of your clients and say, well, what does your brand want to become?
Right.
It's exactly the same with when you jumped into triathlon or into running. What are you going to become? So how do people figure all that out?
So I get this question all the time.
Yeah.
And there are a few questions to ask.
Right.
The first question is, if I were going to make a 30-second show reel of me,
right,
to answer the question, who am I?
Right.
What would it look like? What
would you
visuals,
want it to look like?
Right?
Yeah.
What are the visuals? What's the soundtrack? What's it saying? What's the story?
Yeah.
What is your story?
Yeah.
How does it begin and how does it end?
What you'd want it to be, or what it is?
What you'd want it. If we're asking what's my gift and what's my purpose, then we have to ask, what do we want it to be?
Right.
Forget about where you are right now.
So what we're saying is people can sit down and just say, what do they want that 30 seconds? What would you want it to look like?
Right. What would you want it to? What would be the key messages? What would you be doing, and what would happen at the end?
Yeah.
So that's one of the questions that usually gets a few raised eyebrows.
Do you think the percentage of people, there's a mismatch between that 30 seconds and how they're living out their life? People,
especially who are not particularly happy or feel misaligned, are ones that have a big gap between what they're living and what their show reel is. That's what that again takes us back to think, talk, and behave. If you're thinking, talking, behaving as your purpose, everything's okay.
Right.
You feel aligned, even if you're going through a struggle, because the struggle is part of your journey. You know where it's taking you.
Yeah.
But if you're just struggling for no reason, that's very demotivating, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
so
that's
the first part of
question,
it is sort of get. If we're to say 30 seconds highlight reel of your life, what would it look like?
Exactly.
And see what that gap is.
Right.
What else can people do to sort of bring themselves, as you bring a brand to life, bring themselves to life?
The second question is to say, what do I do really, really well?
Right.
And what do I love doing? So write these down.
Right.
Sometimes they're the same thing.
Golden
sometimes they're not,
here,
right?
Folks. Do write them down.
Right? So, what do I absolutely love doing? What are the things that I'm super, super good at?
Yeah.
And what are the things that the world needs?
That's an interesting one.
Okay.
Right.
And you might like to create a Venn diagram out of this.
Well, there we go.
Because if you can find the sweet spot where those three things overlap,
then you're really in business.
Then you found a way to live your purpose and make money out of it.
So you set up your company in 2007.
Yeah.
Were those three things did you did they come together at the start, or do you have to work on them? Do they need work? Is it like something, a seed? Does it need water? Does it need power all the time?
Absolutely. And it's not like bingo,
right.
Got it straight from the beginning at all.
Yeah.
My company's evolved and transformed so many times in the last nearly 9 years.
Yeah.
But one thing that stayed true is the purpose.
Right.
How we do things can change.
Yeah.
So, for example, our purpose has always been inspiring people and organizations to perform better, to get the best out of yourself, to identify what you do really well, uniquely you, and do that as best as you can.
Right.
How we've done that, sometimes has been through one particular product, another particular product, one approach, another approach. The how you do things can change a lot.
Yeah.
But the why you do things, which is kind of at the core, it's based on your back to your purpose.
Yeah.
That remained the same. But no, there was no silver bullet. Made so many mistakes and learned. That was part of the journey.
How much carryover, if we take 3 silos of your life, we take your business, we take your family life, and we take one of your passions, it seems, triathlon, how many lessons and principles from each do you manage to link, or is it all interlinked? Do you use similar things in business that you can use in your family, or how does it work out?
I believe what I've noticed is that they really are all interlinked.
Right.
So my children are the best example of that, because they're part of this journey with me. And there's an interview there on the web, which I invite you to check out. An interview with my kids, where they talk about their opinion of what I'm doing and the triathlon and why I'm doing it. And the interesting thing is, that video kind of makes me cry still, and not just because I'm their mother. Well, maybe just because I'm their mother.
But super cute.
But it's interesting to see the impact that all of these the business, the sport is having on their opinion of the world and their opinion of themselves. And my son recently decided that he wants to do triathlon, and
How old is he?
He's 10.
Wow.
He participated in his first race like about 5 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then all 3 of us were doing the giant duathlon this Friday, which has been postponed, so we'll all be doing that.
Wow.
So everybody's into it. And this was, I never ever tell them, like, you should do that. No, not at all. I just do what I'm doing and explain to them.
I want to just, on the flip side of that, because it's a big issue. You're a very motivated parent. You're doing it. You're out there. The kids have started doing it because you're doing it. How do you see the other side of the coin? The obesity side of the coin, and kids in bad shape and parents in bad shape. Is it exactly the same? They see the parents and they go and do it?
I can only speak from my experience, which is that, it's not really what you say, it's what you do that your children are mimicking and observing. And, they make comments about, what we put in our body and why we should be concerned, and making suggestions, about how we need to stay fit so we can be positive, a strong mind and strong body. So they're having their own aha moments as they just go through daily life. And it's not because I'm sitting there with a script. No. It's just what they're observing. Yeah. So, if you have kids that want to jump on the bike with their mom and go and have fun, how are they really? They're not going to be able to put on weight.
Yeah.
So what about if you're just everybody's staying at home perpetually in front of electronics?
It's a recipe for disaster.
Right, it is.
I've got 2 more questions. Okay. One of them, you know what it is. The first one, you don't. Fast forward 10 years. What does your life look like?
Oh goodness.
This one's a little bit from the blind side, but fast forward 10 years. What does it look like? You're super motivational. You're winning in so many areas, and you are a true inspiration. But what does it look like 10 years from now?
So 10 years from now, inshallah, I would love to be inspiring orphans. There are 2 things, right? One of the dreams that my mom and I have had for ages and ages is we really, really would love to be able to support children, orphans around the world. And of course, there are ways that you can do that through putting finances aside.
For sure.
However, what I'm more interested in is helping them as individuals build the kind of confidence that could completely change their future.
Right.
Because I feel very blessed to have been, to belong to and been brought up in a very close-knit family, a very positive household, and I believe that that's, a significant reason for where I am today.
Yeah, for sure.
So what about a lot of children who don't have that opportunity?
Yeah,
so, that and especially with a lot of, all of these wars and very challenging situations happening in a number of countries, a lot of which are around us.
Yeah.
That is one thing that I would like to be doing.
Wow.
And therefore, I would like to be traveling a lot.
Wow.
And having more conversations with more people all over the place.
Will you have completed a full Ironman by then?
10 years. How is it? Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
I know you've done a half Ironman now, so
yes.
You'll have done a full Ironman by then as well.
I will only do full Ironman. Now everyone's going to be like, they'll be on my case.
We're listening.
But is when the kids go to university because
of the time.
Because right now I choose to want to dedicate a certain amount of time to my children, and the amount of hours that are required for an Ironman are more than I'm willing to commit right now. So I'll do 70.3s, for a while and then I'll deal with empty nest syndrome by by training for an Ironman.
So you'll be changing the world of orphans' lives, which is amazing. You'll have done an Ironman, very, very inspirational. I always end up with a question which. You've shared a lot of great points with us, Janine, today, and I really, really appreciate it. But if you could share the one single best piece of advice for someone, if you literally had 5 seconds with me, what would you say to me?
Find your purpose.
Yeah.
Find your gift. Because by doing so, you carve out your own unique space in the universe.
Amazing.
And after all, who could be a better you than you?
Incredible, really incredible. From setting up businesses to traveling to family to triathlons, we've covered it all. Janine, I really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you, I've really enjoyed it.
And maybe we'll get you back in a little while to see how the progress is going on those goals.
Absolutely, thank you
so much. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, folks, for tuning into this episode of the podcast, and I do hope you've enjoyed it, and a massive thanks to Janine for all of those awesome points that she brought up, and a massive inspiration as well. Of course, if you do have any questions, drop us an email, winning@innerfight.com, questions related to this podcast, other podcasts, or if you want to see people on the podcast, drop us an email. We'll be more than happy to interview them, chat to them, get a little bit of wisdom from them. Of course, a massive thanks to our show sponsor, Kareem. With the promo code InnerFight, we'll give you 100 dirhams off your first ride with them. And if you use the promo code INNER when you come into the gym, FIGHT when you're leaving the gym, you'll get 10% off your rides. If you have a moment, I really would appreciate it if you hop over to iTunes, give our podcast a rating, even leave a review. That would be absolutely amazing. Until next time, take care.